Anxiety is intangible. It is abstract. It's a feeling. It's something we can't really, make tangible. We can't really, it's hard to really measure, gauge it. It's so abstract, right? So uh, it's an interesting thing to kind of explore together. Um, so for our presentation today, I encourage you to take notes. So maybe get out some paper and a pen. Feel free to take breaks whenever you want. Like this is your time, so don't feel like if you need to go to the bathroom or something. I think please take care of yourself. And there's no rules to participating today. I want this to be as comfortable as possible. There will be a small experiential activity at the end, and it's to create relaxation. So, and it's optional. So if you don't want to engage in it, that's okay too. All right, so anxiety, and we're gonna move along. And so I'm a registered clinical counselor, and I'm a registered clinical art therapist. I'm also a psychedelic therapist. I've been trained as a psychedelic therapist. It's not legal yet, but I've done my training. I am a writer. I love to write fiction, but I also have been published academically, and I put my article up here in case you're interested. If you wanted to read it, I could send you a copy. So feel free to email me if you want at my email address up here. And if not, I think you can find it online quite easily with the Google. So that's me. I've been a counselor. I graduated in 2016, and I'm registered in both art therapy and counseling. I'm also a teacher, so I should say that. I've taught in post-secondary programs, Masters of Counseling programs for a few schools, and also for art therapy institutions, which is my favorite work. Okay. I also prefer, I really love one-on-one work with my clients. So that's the thing I'm really good at and I really enjoy doing. Okay, so we're gonna cover some of the tools that we can use to manage our anxiety today. And here are some of them. So we're gonna go over creative expression, which includes art therapy, connections to nature, compassionate self-care, mindfulness, and a little technique that I think I kind of maybe made up, and maybe it already exists, called deep listening. And we're going to go over that in the presentation, and breathing. So these are some manageable, accessible tools that any person could probably try to access. And yeah, okay. So here's one of my diagrams that I made. I hope you enjoy it. So what I say to a lot of my clients is, well, the reason we have anxiety and depression is because we're moving away from the now. And the now is this moment we exist in, like right now, that we know we can like see things and use our senses. And I'm here connecting with you in this very moment. This is like the thing I can work with, this moment right now. But sometimes I can take myself way into the past. And when I do that, sometimes I can suffer from depression. And sometimes I can take myself way into the future. And when I do that, I'm creating anxiety, imagining things that could be. So it's a really interesting way of looking at anxiety and depression, I find, seeing how that we can take ourselves out of the now and make the past so real, and we can go into the future and make it so real. But really all we can work with is just this moment. And so you can see we have conscious thoughts and unconscious thoughts. So it can be tricky to be in the now. It's not an easy thing to do. And the problem is thinking. As humans, we think way too much, and it's caused a lot of problems for us. So we have these amazing frontal lobes that give us the ability to, be creative and do, humans are amazing. We have these amazing frontal lobes to help us rationalize and just be the amazing beings we are, I guess. But we overthink and we think all the time, and that's causing a lot of issues for us. Okay. And people engage in a lot of self-talk. And so, that chatter that we can engage in, that kind of can incite us to pop into the past and pop into the future. And like I say to some of my clients and other people I know, we don't really know if the past existed. Like, yes, we have photographs and stuff, but it's very intangible. And we don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but we can tell that we're getting close to it, but we don't really know. All we know is this moment right now. So bringing it back to now is really awesome if you're able to do that. And we'll go into some tools about that will help us get into the now, if that is, yeah. So some questions that people have about anxiety. Why do we get anxious? Does anxiety serve a purpose? Is anxiety energetic? And by that I mean, well, we are made up of energy. So is anxiety related to this energy? Is anxiety relational? Does anxiety have to do with the connections we have with other people? Is anxiety collectivist or a result of connection? Again, kind of related to the relational bit there. Is anxiety part of being part of a collective? Is anxiety related to trauma? Is anxiety related to creativity? And when is anxiety a problem? So these are questions that lots of different kinds of people have about anxiety. And the truth is, we don't have a lot of answers. Humans have come really far, but we still have a long way to go, and especially in understanding the brain and the mind. So we don't have tons of answers to these things, but I can talk about when it's a problem. Anxiety can be a problem when it seems overwhelming, when you stop doing things that you don't want to be doing, or sorry, when you stop doing things you want to be doing, and your life is really becoming negatively affected. And in that case, I would say to seek support, and that would be through your medical doctor, through other professionals, support groups. Reach out to anyone that can help you on your journey to seek support. But yeah, anxiety is an interesting thing. Humans have different levels of resiliency, and there's always other factors that make anxiety what it is that are external to us as well. So it's quite complicated. But these are some questions that we ask. And what we do know is that anxiety does serve a purpose for humans. And anxiety is a universal human reality, so you can't escape it. And I put this little blurb in from a song by Bad Religion. I don't know if any of you are into old punk rock, but there is a song called Anxiety. That's the title of it, from the album No Control. Oh, that's interesting. How much control do we have? But if you read the lyrics here, you can see that anxiety is something that we can't really escape. And it's part of our society. It's part of us as humans. So you might want to listen to that song if you're into that kind of music. It's also important to note that right now it's a very difficult time for a lot of different kinds of humans. And we should acknowledge that and be aware of that, because if we believe in the collective unconscious, which is that we're connected to everybody and everything, we will inadvertently be affected by what's going on outside of us too, if we're all connected energetically. So just be aware of that. Sometimes when you feel really bad, it can be maybe part of being in a collectivist environment and being around other humans, being part of this world. It's just the way it is now. So be gentle with yourself and don't always assume it's just you. It's a challenging time to live right now. So be gentle with yourself and be compassionate. Is there a cure for anxiety? Well, we don't really know that yet. We use medication a lot for anxiety. We use counseling and talk therapy, other kinds of therapeutic methods. But one way that we could probably alleviate anxiety is to decrease the amount of thinking and the amount of thinking that a person engages in, while increasing their energetic and bodily awareness. So I put a little image in here from the movie Fantastic Planet from the 70s. It's a really wacky animated movie, but kind of touches on energy and meditation and lots of really interesting stuff, actually. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. Okay. And I wanted to also point out that yeah, our frontal lobes, like I mentioned, are probably a big cause of our anxiety, that our ability to rationalize and really deeply analyze things. And I believe that anxiety is related to creativity. So creative people are often anxious. They can imagine a lot of stuff. So if you're a creative person, there's a high chance you're probably anxious as well. So again, be gentle with yourself, be compassionate, and don't be too hard on yourself. Okay. Transformation. So in that little quote that was about anxiety, the artist said to suppress your anxiety. That was the last line. So I don't know if that's the healthiest. Instead of suppressing anxiety or avoiding or eliminating anxious energies, we can process these energies and get out on the other side. It's okay to have anxiety and get through it and come out on the other side. That might have been a more realistic way of looking at it way back when we started tackling it, because it was something that we tried to eliminate. And I don't know if it's possible, because as we know, anxiety serves a purpose for humans. It's just that now things have sped up and there's more chances to get anxious nowadays than there was maybe when life was simpler, when we were growing our own food and lived very far away from other people. And things have changed, you know, over the many years that humans have been around. So thinking about transforming anxiety might be helpful. Instead of getting rid of it, we can transform it. Let me just see here. Yeah, so just shifting away from the idea that life can be without anxiety. Like, is this a realistic truth? And how would that change humankind if we could kind of incorporate this new idea? One thing we can do is, you know, we can't suppress it, but we can prevent going down an anxiety spiral. So when anxiety starts to come up for us, there are ways to manage to experience that anxiety, but not go down the spiral, which is hard to get out of once you're in. So some of the tools that I'm going to offer now could be useful for this. So I'm just going to do a time check. Okay. Yeah, so we'll go to the next slide. So this is the philosophy I have. Have a sip of water. Humans are full of energy, and this has been proven. So we're full of electrical, chemical, and mechanical energy. That's how the human body works. It's pretty wild. And knowing this, that we're full of energy, I believe that sometimes we can have too much energy within us. And when there's too much energy within us, this can become detrimental. It can fester. It can turn into something bad. And so that energy needs to be released or transformed in some way. And one of the ways we can transform energy is art. And I'm an art therapist and I love art. So let's move on to the next slide. So I'll just tell you a little bit, I guess, about my experience that led me to get into art therapy. So I'm 42 now, but when I was in my 20s, especially, I was going through some of my own upheavals, just being human. And I know one of the things that brought me peace and solace and comfort was always art making or any kind of creative expression, because I'm also a writer. So I noticed how art would help me feel better. And when I had the opportunity to go further with my schooling and I thought about counseling, I was like, I don't know, maybe. But then as I looked into art therapy, which I could do at the same time, I knew that was the right fit for me. And I truly believe in this. So art takes the tangible and abstract and makes it tangible and concrete. So it takes what's like invisible and like something you can't grasp and makes it something external, something that you can touch and work with and look at from the outside. So that's really cool about art. Energy can flow from, like, if I have an art idea, it can move from my brain, like down my arm to my hand to like the art material, like a pencil, and outside of myself. So wow, the manifestation or the transformation of energy is so awesome, right? People often feel relief and grounding and decompression after art making. You have to try it to believe it. It does work. Especially if you're not, if you're in a safe place to make art, because art can be very stressful for some people, depending on art-related traumas from the past and other experiences. So in a safe place, art can be very healing. And art is a gentle way to connect with the unconscious processes of the of the unconscious mind. So it's a gentle way to get in there without just using talk or other methods. And a lot can come up in art making, even if you're working on something that has nothing to do with the things that are coming up. It's just a way to tap into the subconscious a bit more to see what's in there. And when I talk about art, I'm talking about any kind of art. So visual art, music, engaging in dance, movement, drama, creative writing. So any kind of art stuff. Okay. Sure, I don't go too long here. So I heard this being talked about earlier, but another method that I believe is really good for anxiety is getting out into nature. So many people feel relief from anxiety by going into nature. Many humans have lost their connection with nature, and healing this rift can incite good health. I truly believe all humans are indigenous, like going back far enough. We all have indigenous roots. And unfortunately, we have lost touch with that being indigenous and our connection with the land. And healing that can be so important for some people's growth and evolution and just managing in daily life. So think about what your connection is with nature. So it's been proven that there's high levels of oxygen in the woods and by the water. So that's just great in itself. Walking or swimming in nature is a great way to get exercise. You get your outdoor time and you get exercise. So that's really good. And here's this funny phrase I hear, touch grass. But honestly, take some mindful moments to like examine a leaf or look at snowflakes or smell flowers. Put your hands on the moss or in the dirt and see what that does. Yeah. Another important thing to notice is what you say to yourself. So we're moving into self-compassion here and thinking about the messaging you are giving yourself. So I'm all about self-compassion and self-love. It's really important to parent ourselves. All humans are seeking that kind of like nurturing, and sometimes we can't get it externally and we have to generate it for ourselves. So think about what that means to you to parent yourself. But humans can be so cruel to themselves and so abusive, actually. And we do have a bit of control over this. It's really important to note that, right? Why do we do this? Why do we say things like this to ourselves? You know, past experiences, learned behavior, past trauma. So humans often say cruel things to themselves, and we are more likely to engage in negative self-messaging. We might say things like, you suck, you're embarrassing, you don't deserve anything good. And you can counteract these kind of terrible thoughts by providing some positive messaging to yourself. So you might want to try doing this in a mirror. It can seem so super cheesy, but it must counteract the negativity that we put on ourselves. So, try to say things to yourself like, you are beautiful, you're doing great, you enhance the world, and just see what that does for you. Give it a try, it can't hurt. Okay, so mindfulness. So I find mindfulness is we talked about getting back to the now. So here's the slide for that. And one of the ways that we can do that is by paying attention to our mind and our thoughts. So I find that with meditation, this was also mentioned earlier, that it can be quite complicated and quite confusing and cause more stress for a lot of people. There's too many instructions. Even with grounding techniques and breathing techniques, it's just there's a lot of instructions and it can become very complicated if you are having an anxious moment. So I've kind of thought of a new way of doing this, and it's called deep listening. And I've kind of invented this maybe because just from working with people don't have the time to engage in deep meditation practices. It might seem overwhelming. It might not really serve the purpose for them. So I've created this kind of way to do a micro meditation. And well, if we have time at the end, which I really hope, we can try to do this for a few minutes. And these are the instructions, but we'll do this at the end. So we're almost getting there. But you would find a comfortable and safe place to sit or lie down. I really like lying down because it like brings your blood pressure down. And when your blood pressure goes down, your heart rate will go down and you'll feel good. So lying down is great. Focus on listening very deeply. And so this is what basically the main thing is. If we use the sense of hearing, and we really focus on using the sense of hearing, our thoughts will subside. And it feels really weird. It's like it's a meditation. You're really present. You're in the now. You're in your body. And so once you practice this for a while, or even the first day you're trying it, and if you're comfortable and engage with the deep listening, you might start to pay attention to your breath. And when I say this, I don't want to encourage anyone to manipulate their breath too much at the beginning or start thinking about their breath, because that's defeating the purpose. But if you're able to kind of get into the deep listening and be present, just notice what's going on. And then you can decide what you're going to do later on. If you notice you hold your breath a little bit, maybe you can relax that. You might notice you might be breathing shallowly and you might want to pull the breath into your lungs more deeply. So just take note of what's going on. And breathing. So managing the breath can help regulate the heart rate, because the heart and the lungs are connected with blood flow and other ways. So managing the breath and relaxing your breath will regulate your heart rate. And breathing is one of the things we truly have some control over. It's like when you think about all the things you have control over in life, there's not much, but breathing is one thing. Breath is the life force. We need it to live. And some people might be interested in looking into holotropic breathing, which is using breath work to incite like a substance-free psychedelic experience, which is really neat. So if you're interested in that, you can email me and I can send you some info, or you can use the Google. What we can really control. So in our lives, like I said, we can control some things, but not much. And the two things that I think that we do have some control over, one is the kind of messaging we provide to ourselves. So we do have control over this. We don't have to continually barrage ourselves with terrible comments or labels or names or whatever you're doing. You can try to stop when you realize you're doing that to yourself. be gentle, you know, take care of yourself, treat yourself as you would treat a small child. You know, don't yell at yourself, don't swear at yourself, be compassionate. And that's one thing you can control. And another thing you can control with practice is breathing. And so that's something you can practice makes perfect. So you have to actually engage in looking at your breath. And one of the ways you can do that is through that deep listening that I talked about. Yeah, so I guess if we have a few minutes, so hopefully we can do this experience. Let me just create a little bit of closure before we get into the experience so we can just breach away. I would like us to relax, and then I'll just kind of finish my presentation then, if that's okay. Deep listening, experiential, AKA relieve a racing mind, if you have one. So if you could find a safe or comfortable place to sit or lie down. And again, if you need to contact me, there's my info. So please feel free to email me. I would definitely like to be in touch with anybody who's interested. And so I'm going to invite you to lie down or sit somewhere. And I'm going to stop talking in a minute. And I want you to just take a moment to listen deeply to the sounds around you. And you might hear different things like traffic, people. I have a fountain going. You might hear your heater buzzing. You might hear birds song. You can do this outside as well, but most of us are probably inside right now. So I'd like to just take a few minutes to just do some deep listening and just some regular, relaxed, normal breathing without any sort of manipulation, if possible. And I'll say goodbye in 2 minutes, but I'll sit here and hold space for you to do your breathing and your listening. So thank you so much. It's now noon, so we're probably going to end our presentation here. Thank you so much, everybody.